Good morning, everyone. Mr. Claus, how are you? Did I catch you in mid-coffee?
You literally caught me in mid-coffee drink. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much, not
Believe it.
much. Living the life, living
I
the
know,
life.
right?
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
This is AZ Update, right? I'm in the right show?
It is the right show.
Okay.
It's not testing and production. It's not what's that other show? Oh yeah, patch and switch. This is AZ Update. This is the work we get paid for.
Fantastic. Happy to be here, my friend. Happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a busy week.
It has, man. There's been some good updates.
It has. There's been some good updates. The tempo seems to be coming back up because I think over the summer it kind of slowed down a little bit, and now it's starting to ramp back up again. And I got pulled into a very interesting meeting, project this week.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm building a simulation for Azure Orbital.
I mean, like the space thing.
I'm in space.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, well, I'm not building it. I'm helping on deploying the infrastructure to support it.
Got it. I understand. Is that going to be a news item we're talking about today?
It is. It's kind of cool. There was a news release but we're gonna get to that in a second. What about you? What have you been up to?
For me, it has been preparing for this thing that's called the Windows Server Summit, which is taking place later in the fall, so September timeframe. People can register for it. I know that was covered in a previous episode. So there's a whole bunch of pre-work that has to go on. So I'm looking after doing a bunch of organization and content for that, as well as for this small little other conference that we talk about, Microsoft Ignite. Don't know if you've heard about that one before.
I don't know.
I can't talk about that one because we haven't announced dates. I just know that it's going on, but that's all I'm allowed to say.
Wow. Stay tuned, as they say.
More information that's coming, I guess, for sure, man.
Oh, absolutely. So if everybody stays glued to itopstalk.com, in our blog, in our Twitch and YouTube and Facebook channels, you will get the information as soon as we're allowed to let you know about it.
Absolutely. Way to go, man.
Yep. So in the chat right now, people are just kind of starting to come in. We've got a few people. We've got 7 people watching, but I'll say hello to the ones that actually shows me who they are. We've got Andrew McCallum. We've got Rabbit Jr.
Nice.
And all the other ones are not logged in. I mean, identified. So thank you, people, for joining us this morning. As you noticed, there's a bit of a change on the AZ Update desk.
Hey, I'm just filling in. You put out the call. You turned on the bat signal, as they said. You're looking for people that are going to be co-hosting and hosting and swapping things around. So this is a sign of things to come for folks that are going through a whole bunch of different sorts of changes, which is awesome.
So it is August at Microsoft.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely here for sure. So yeah, I'm helping out. Anthony is taking on a new role, but he's still around. You know, he might even be inside the chat room. Who knows?
Who knows? And I'm sure at some point he'll come back in and do an episode or two, and now and then, as his new job permits.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the funny thing is, because this is a significantly earlier time than I'm used to being around, I couldn't find the appropriate green hat. So this is actually my disaster recovery hat.
This is the backup hat?
This is the backup hat. You can tell because it's a little too stiff and too new. So I've got to go throw it in the washing machine about 5 or 6 times to be able to break it in a bit better. But it's on just for the folks here at AZ Update.
So where's Rick's Tilly hat? Did you not put was it those Apple Find My Hat tags in there?
Put an air tag inside of there. That's actually something that my daughter suggested, but have not made the investment as of yet. So it's a little bit too late.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Chalkley just joined us.
There we go.
Steve, the audio guy from that other show.
That other one.
That's funny. Shall we get to the news?
Let's absolutely get to the news, my friend. What's going on? You know, it's the stuff that we have lined up today is kind of cool. You alluded to one. Is that the first one we're talking about today?
It is. It is. So Microsoft or Microsoft Space. Actually, is it called Azure Space or Azure Orbital?
I am going to defer that just because the name has changed since I've known about it for a while. And so I don't want to say because I don't actually know definitively. So you would know more than I would based on the PR article, I would guess.
Well, the PR article or the release actually talks about both. So they mentioned Azure Space and also Azure Orbital. And I'm thinking that the division is called Azure Space, but that the product it's called Azure Orbital.
Yeah.
So since 2017, HP and NASA have put an actual data center grade server into the ISS just to see whether or not it would survive cosmic radiation, solar radiation, call it whatever you want. I'm not sure. I'm not a scientist-y person.
Just even think about the mechanics of how like the heads on a hard drive have to be in, touching the platter and doing stuff. I bet these guys and gals are using some kind of SSD and no actual physical heads on them. But I digress. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did you ever hear about this new fandangle thing called SSDs, flash memory?
Anyway, so what is this one? What's going on, man?
Anyway, so
teased this earlier.
Building on that success of 2017, where the servers actually survived, they've installed 2 new servers, and they call them Spaceborne 1 and Spaceborne 2, and they are connected to Azure through Azure Orbital. So there is the space station, and then there's a ground station service, and then there's an actual communication link in between where you could. They're looking at running some workloads into those servers, and then having the delta or the payload sent to Azure for analysis using AI and any other tools that you may need to access or to basically do the crunching of those numbers. And the first project is a genomics project where they're looking at basically the genome, the human genome, and how it's being affected by space in general. And that will lead to safer humans on our way to Mars, possibly.
Nice.
So that's very, very, very cool. So we are also building, as part of this project, a ground simulation where we're using, as the difference is you can't actually run a cable up to the space station and plug in the Ethernet and jiggle the cable.
I think that would go a long ways past the realms of how much signal attenuation you're going to have and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's not like you're getting the giggies, like a lot of giggies on that particular connection. So you have to figure out how the most efficient way of sending your data over. It's like putting a developer building a big application behind a 56K modem. You have to figure out what absolutely needs to go over the wire and design it that way. So we're building a simulation that will be allowed to just hit the button and it'll deploy in multiple areas around the world, and simulate that slow link in between so that our scientist friends can build solutions and test them here before they get pushed up there.
Very cool, man.
It is very cool.
So your project you're working on was specifically around building that infrastructure, making it repeatable?
Yep. That's cool, and man. We're using the cool thing is that we're using multiple technologies.
Can you do me a favor and scroll down that page to get the picture of what these 2 systems look like?
Oh, yeah.
Scroll down. There you go. Stop. Go back up. I want to see the picture. That's giving me cable phobia right now. Like I need to go in and do a better job of tying all those cables down. So if you're interested, NASA, I will volunteer to be shot into space and do better cable management for you.
That is the number one question I ask when they talk to me about building that simulation. And I said, question number 1, do I get to go?
Absolutely. Anyway, man, very cool project. I'm excited. Can't wait to see the content and the ARM template and the use of the bicep language. People go off and deploy it. Very, very cool stuff.
How about you?
I've got the AD sign-in concept. So using workbooks inside of Azure to be able to go ahead and to do a new way of visualizing and looking at different types of data and different logs. And so there's some awesome documentation specifically around AD authentication and different ways of doing activity reporting on that kind of data. But then a couple of PFEs and engineers have gone ahead and created a specific workbook for a question that they get asked and that you can visualize is, how do you know who's actually using Windows Hello for Business? You can configure people to go off and do it. They have to go through and actually finish the registration process, set up their local machines to be able to do it. So there's only so much that you can automate.
Yep.
And so you need to know how you can actually view and see how many people are going off and using it. So instead of a simple counter, you can go off and expose the data. You can render it in different ways. Obviously, that's all part of workbooks and how workbooks are created. But these fine folks here that are part of the PFE world, PFEs are now known as customer engineers.
Yes.
So Jeroen has gone ahead and published a workbook specifically about how to expose and render and view what this particular data looks like for Azure AD and for sign-on with Windows Hello for Business. And Michelle, also a former PFE, so I guess she's also a customer engineer, is currently a product manager inside the identity division and going through. So all that brought together gives you the ability to go through and take a look at what is the Windows Hello usage per device and per user authentication counts. And then also global locations of those authentications. So 3 different visualizations. They've gone ahead and published the code on a GitHub for you to be able to go off and to use for that workbook. And you can basically go in and bring that code down, bring in a JSON, make a couple of changes to it, and then import it into your workstation. Very cool visualizations and a good way of getting a handle on who's actually using Windows Hello for Business.
Is this really just about LO, or like what the benefits to our viewers and our audience here is what they use to build it, right?
Correct. Yes. Sorry. Drop this guy down. Where are you going with that, Pierre?
Well, I just want to talk about the workbook and how super powerful that workbook, those workbook can be.
Well, they're fully customizable, right? So if you can get the data from a particular source that you need, that you find that is important for that data source, you're going through and you're visualizing it and rendering it in a way that makes more sense to you and to the other people that have access to that particular dashboard that you're looking at. I mean, workbooks are the same back end that are being used by other products as well, like Sentinel and things like that. So this is simply one more view of lens of data that you can look at and bringing that into your environment.
That's very, very, very cool. I think that is more like the fact that you can use that technology to visualize any data that's in your environment and build actual useful and informative dashboard can be adapted to a number of different situations for our customers.
Yeah. So they've actually gone ahead and, as I mentioned, they've given you access to this workbook inside of a GitHub repo. The link that's inside the show notes gives you a link to that particular repo. And also there happens to be a nice blog post that talks about on tech community. Michelle, he's gone ahead and created the initial work above that you've seen as far as what's inside that blog post. Jeroen has gone in and done some more tweaking to it as well and brought into it. And that's the essential version that you can download and then take a look at inside your own visualization. And obviously everyone is encouraged to go ahead and to continue to edit and to revise to make it more useful for folks.
Well, that's the beauty of public repos and open source solutions like that, is we get to learn. I'm currently actually learning from somebody, Ben Wilkinson's repo on Bicep, and mostly deployment script embedded in Bicep's files, because he's done a lot of work on that, and he's actually quite phenomenal.
Awesome, man.
Oh, all right. So our next news item, considering it is 10:15, so we've got to keep going, is wrong scene. Azure Private Multi-Access Edge Compute. So right now we are just released or announced this new service, which is a combination of Azure resources and partners, telcos, and so on, where we could actually bring the compute power as close to possible to your business. So right up there at the edge of their communication for your to run your workloads at. So benefits is a full choice of trusted industry. So if you can basically pick your partner that you're going to deal with in your region or in your environment, and you can actually have, let's say, IoT stuff running at the edge without having to host the compute yourself. For example, like the HCI Azure Stack Edge to compute, or what is it called, IoT Hub. I think I need Anthony here to talk about IoT.
Nice, love it.
But no, the great thing about this particular one is the fact that even though you may be in an area where the closest Azure region is not necessarily that close to you, so for some reason you want to run something, well, you can use our partners, telcos or whatnot, to actually host and connect that workload right there at the edge without having to be bound to an Azure region.
Got it.
It's got some really funky possibilities.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was noticing in the chat, there's Andy that's asking a question about our previous story, because obviously the chat links are a little bit delayed for when we actually are able to see them. I was just asking for a short link to that workbook that I was talking about. Can you remind everybody on the show, where can they find all the details about the articles that we're talking about?
The articles that we talk about are all on our blog at itopstalks.com.
You got it. So every article we have also links and other related information, and you'll see the links inside of there. You can go ahead and access them that way. So that's probably about the best short link we can give you for everything. Perfect.
Yeah, right now, I could hunt it down, but I think we've got a show to do.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I've got some retirement news.
You do?
Is that good? No, I'm not retiring. And no, Anthony did not retire. We're talking specifically about the NC series VM. So I remember I was actually working in Azure Compute when we came out with the NC series. Basically, it's our GPU-enabled VMs inside of our data centers across our regions across the world. And some of the earlier ones have been deprecated just because we have to refresh the hardware for what's going on, right?
Yep.
And so some of those GPUs are no longer being supported with different versions of CUDA for rendering and for compute and that sort of stuff. And so we're going through and cleaning house, removing some of the old hardware. It's already been replaced with the newer versions of the different GPUs that exist. Yep. By NVIDIA. In this case, we're talking about the K series or the C series. See, this is hard because the way that we talk about our VMs is unique with the way that everything's been classified, and it's evolved over the years. And so these are specifically environments where it is the NC, the ND, and the NCV2 series that we're talking about from a retirement perspective. So basically, you're going to want to, if you're using GPUs in Azure, you're going to want to come and take a look at this article. You already would have been notified through communications as normal through Azure and through the contacts on the Azure subscription to say, hey, hello, just so you know, you need to go through and re-provision and rework out your GPU usage and how you're doing it, because we're cycling these ones out and new ones are coming in. Basically, the NC series of machines are going to be retired on August 31st, which is about 10 days from now or so. Yep. And anyone that's still using them at that time are going to see a rolling wave of their machines being set to deallocated so that the hardware can be swapped out. But by that time, you will continue to get notifications leading up to that particular 31st of August to get you to use the newer machines that happen to be out there. Yeah. And no, Pierre, just before you ask, you don't get to have access to the old GPUs. They're being recycled and reused in a proactive and environmentally friendly way.
Well, I was thinking with the global shortage of GPUs, maybe I can just grab one or two, but
Well, again, these are also the compute. So the NC used to stand for NVIDIA Compute. So these are more compute oriented. These are not the ones that are video oriented. And again, as I mentioned, all the new VM series happen to be there. There is a guide specifically talking about migrating your workloads from the older to the newer. That's linked in the article that we reference on the blog post talking about GPU compute migrations. And you can obviously always go ahead and take a look at the VM pricing page on Azure to be able to see what new versions of the NVIDIA series happen to exist. And I believe we've got pretty good coverage across all of our regions to make sure that everyone's going to be covered with access to that hardware.
And from what I understand too is the new VMs that are replacing those retired VMs are actually more cost efficient.
Yeah. So we're taking advantage of these efficiencies as we're going, right?
All right. So you get nicer hardware or newer hardware, potentially more powerful hardware, at a potentially beneficial cost to you. So it's a win-win.
You got it. Good stuff. So follow up, read that article, see if you're impacted, and there's even a migration guide to help you out.
Oh, now I have to think about, do I have to go and update the Learn TV hardware?
I don't know, man. Well, I guess you'll figure that out soon. But we got a show to finish. What's up?
Oh, that's right. All right. So the next, what's our next item?
I think we're done with the news items. I think we're
done with the news items. Oh man, I was looking at my list.
News or other things, man. I'm just a guest on the show.
I know this week, like I said, this week has been so I'm losing track of some of the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. But no, this week
here,
hey,
as your manager, that's not something you necessarily want to say to your manager.
I didn't say I'm not doing them. I said I'm losing track, but I'm getting it done.
Nice.
So now for this week, in kind of like inspired by what I had to do for that simulation deployment, I figured that the Learn module of the week should be how to deploy resources to subscriptions, management groups, and tenants using Bicep. Because
see, I see where you're going with this. I got that. So I'm assuming that you're using Bicep for your infrastructure definitions and deployment for your project.
We are, and the cool thing is in any templates, typically you have to target it to like the resources go into a resource group. Normally, you have the resource group either pre-created or it's part of the parameters that you pass in.
Right.
Well, in this one, because actually, there's a very nice little module in that learning path about this, where your Bicep file actually targets the subscription, so you can deploy new resource groups, and then in the same templates, have modules that will deploy resources in each of those resource groups. It's a really nice way of consolidating multiple scopes into a single Bicep file. Really makes it easy to organize your infrastructure deployment.
Got it. So Bicep's the way to go. It's the new way that we're doing a declarative language to be able to go off and handle resources. And
JSON's not going away, though.
Pardon me?
JSON is not going away.
No. JSON is the lifeblood of how ARM is going through. Azure Resource Manager is going through to define and deploy the infrastructure on top of our fabric.
That's right.
So this is simply another more programmatic way, more up-to-date way to be able to go ahead and to address that, and then work with ARM templates.
That's correct. So you write in Bicep, you compile in JSON, and Azure Resource Manager ingests it.
Nice.
And for what we have, I'm a little behind here, is we have another show this week. You know what show we're talking about?
I have no idea.
Community show?
What? Who?
There's a community show going on later today.
Oh, I got to change my shirt for that one. That's the Patch and Switch show.
That's right. So this week is Patch and Switch. Next week will be testing and production, but this week is patch and switch. What do you guys plan? Do you have anything special planned for us, or is it just the normal shenanigans?
Planned? Did you actually say the word planned? Really? No. In all seriousness, we're actually going to have a special guest. We have a guest joining us this week. We're going to be pinging our good friend, Mr. Richard Campbell is going to be on again. So the people that are watching this show right now got the inside scoop because we haven't really talked about it as of yet. But we were chatting with Rich Campbell earlier in the week. We said, hey, man, why don't you come on down on the show? So he's coming down to be able to have a chat with us as well. Should be fun.
See, I was just fishing because I had no idea you were having a special guest.
Well, and the other stuff that's kind of new is, besides the disaster recovery hat that I've got on, I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a new background happening here behind me.
Yes, I did notice. What's up with that?
So Microsoft's going back to work and giving people the option of going back to work, or basically based on your job, having the opportunity to work from home. And I've decided, because my team's all remote, I might as well free up my office space for people that need to have the space. And I'm going to be working from home and then going into the office for meetings if I have to, because I live close enough to campus to be able to do that. So last night, because we all say never make changes to production on a before a major event like a live stream the next day,
except for the show next week, because that's what we do, is
production,
test things in production.
So I basically went and moved the office that I have, the infrastructure. So my camera setup, my lights that I have that I can control and that sort of stuff to be able to go off and do things. All that was moved last night at around midnight or so to be able to set up and do testing prior to the show this morning. And I need to rebuild my camera angles and everything else. But the one thing that I like about this already, but you can't see because she's actually tired and went back to bed, is Bailey the puppy came in earlier and was rolling around on the carpet over here. Both of my dogs love the fact that I have all the space that they can now come and just kind of flop around on. So they might be making some appearances on future shows.
Very nice. Mine are upstairs and are going to be nowhere near my office because Mac is an idiot and he just jumps everywhere.
Nice.
I'm not sure if he's a dog or a kangaroo.
It's very, very excitable and young. So, and I see Jared in the chat room is like saying, me, I'll take your office. I'm like, sorry, it gets allocated back to the pool. The traditional way at Microsoft was your length of tenure on the team and also various other different weighted factions would make it so that you would be able to get a window office. And so I had a nice window office at Microsoft, but I'm going to give that up. Yeah, it was nice. Coolness though. But yeah, so eventually I need to go ahead and rebuild because right now this is very plain background.
Hey, well, where that might be something that we can help you with on the other show.
Tested in production?
Yep.
Right on.
But for now, we have to say goodbye because we are coming up to time and we don't want to get cut off on Learn TV. Thank you so much, Rick, for joining us this morning and filling in for the empty seat that Mr. Wireless for Life, Anthony Bartolo, has left. He's not gone. He's just focusing on new responsibilities. So
you got it. And he'll be back. We'll be dropping in for some shows once in a while, right?
Pardon me?
He'll be back and offer to drop in for some shows once in a while.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this morning on AZ Update. If you have any comments or feedback, you can absolutely send it to us either on our Discord or in an email at itopstalk-feedback@microsoft.com. Read the blog and see all of the details of the news items that we've talked about today on itopstalk.com. And we'll see you next week. So thank you very much. And thank you, Rick, for joining us. Cheers.